All right, guys. So, I'm about to read an article that goes into detail about why Donald Trump is a moron. There's many different things that you can go into in explaining why Donald Trump is a moron, but this one's pretty specific on his protectionist trade policies. For one, which I've already pointed out, the entire reason why the United States is a global superpower in the first place is because we make other countries subservient to the dollar. It's just what we do. We make it to where they rely on it, and then we generally screw them over, or we install puppet dictators and just pay them a bunch of money, which is nothing compared to what we would pay overall, like with fair trade. So we just pay a leader a bunch of money that's like a puppet dictator, and we basically steal a bunch of resources and shit in a given region, and we come out, well, we don't come out better. Actually, wealthy people in the country come out better. We generally don't see shit for it. In fact, it takes away American jobs. Um, I'm a little bit intoxicated, so I'm kind of all over the place here. But as I pointed numerous times, expert economists pointed out even beforehand that Trump's tax plan would raise taxes on everyone except for the top 1%. And we are soon going to see that. We've already started seeing the economy tank severely. Not just eggs. We use eggs as sort of like a meme because Trump pined on and on about the price of eggs. It's why it's so funny, because he like his entire campaign was constantly talking about the fucking price of eggs and how on day one he was going to fucking make it better. And here we are. It was $3 when he was complaining. It's $9 now. It's hilarious. It really is. But it's bigger than that. It's about like his claims of bringing fucking manufacturing jobs back to the United States. By the way, he made the exact same claim in his first term, and 200,000 of them were lost. So if you actually look into the actual facts, you'll see that Donald Trump just lies about everything. He doesn't give a fuck about anyone but himself and his rich buddies. But anyhow, instead of just coming on here and explaining myself why it's completely stupid and Donald Trump doesn't understand anything about global economy, and well, he doesn't understand specifically why tariffs are absolutely stupid. It's why they're like an outdated form of shit, like that very rarely get used now, because it just creates like a tit for tat sort of escalation, and it fucks everyone. Like no one comes out on top. You just get fucked. It's stupid. But try explaining that to Donald Trump. So in this one, I'm going to specifically go over why his hyper focus on trade deficits don't matter. So let's go ahead and get into this. I will provide the link. It's titled "Ignore the Politicians, Trade Deficits Don't Really Matter," the 2024 Republican Party platform reflecting the protectionist views of presidential nominee Donald Trump notes that our trade deficit in goods is over $1 trillion a year and says it is committed to rebalancing trade with foreign countries. Apparently, an imbalance, Americans buy more in imports than they sell in exports, is bad and must be fixed. This is a fallacious claim, because trade deficits don't really matter, not between countries and not between you and your local grocery store. When politicians and special interest groups, the latter usually domestic manufacturers averse to competition, talk about trade deficits, they imply that U.S. businesses and workers are being hurt. Vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance, for instance, said in July 30th speech, "We believe that a million cheap knockoff toasters aren't worth the price of a single American manufacturing job." What he means is that if Americans choose to buy 1 million toasters from foreign manufacturers because they are less expensive than U.S. made toasters, it isn't worth it. One U.S. job trumps consumer freedom. In another speech, Vance said, we're done sacrificing supply chains to unlimited global trade, and we're going to stamp more and more products with that beautiful label, made in the USA. The implication is that a US made product or service is better than a foreign good and unlimited global trade is bad. Never mind Sony TVs, Toyota cars, Colombian coffee, French wine, or Swiss chocolate. In their criticism of global trade and imports, Vance and the GOP platform don't mention several important things: the American consumer, private property, and the freedom that people should enjoy to voluntarily exchange goods and services. Some folks call this liberty and the pursuit of happiness. People freely choosing to buy and sell what they want, not what the government dictates. In The Wealth of Nations, the great economist Adam Smith wrote, and I'm breaking in for a moment here. Adam Smith is commonly referred to as the forefather of capitalism. This guy is a fucking god to the conservative right. Very important to keep that in context. If a foreign country can supply us with a commodity cheaper than we ourselves can make it, better buy it off them. In every country, it always is and must be the interest of the great body of the people to buy whatever they want of those who sell it cheapest. The proposition is so very manifest that it seems ridiculous to take any pains to prove it, nor could it ever have been called in question had not the interested sophistry of merchants and manufacturers confounded the common sense of mankind. Their interest is, in this respect, directly opposite to that of the great body of the people. In other words, it's all about fucking big fucking rich 1% pieces of shit that want to fool you into thinking that it's all about protecting fucking manufacturing jobs and shit, when history shows it's not about that. It's to make them more money. And by the way, you get fucked. Continuing, simply, it is in everyone's interest to get the best deal. This applies to both the buyer and the seller who voluntarily engage in an exchange where each feels he is benefiting. If American consumers and businesses end up buying more goods from foreign manufacturers than they sell to foreign consumers, resulting in a trade deficit, so what? American citizens and firms deal with partners all over the world, reports Cato adjunct scholar Daniel Griswold. There is no rational economic reason why Americans should be expected to sell exactly the same value of goods and services to people in a particular foreign nation than we buy from them. Trade deficits or surpluses will always occur and will vary by product and from country to country. Keep in mind, you may buy lots of things from Amazon or Whole Foods, yet they never buy anything from you. That's a huge trade deficit on your end, but it does not matter because both parties benefited. The same economic relationship exists on the international level. As the libertarian economist and historian Robert Higgs explains, people, individuals, firms, and other organizations and governments trade in order to improve their economic condition. Whether they trade with people inside or outside the USA has nothing to do with economics or human well-being. Nations, as such, don't gain or lose from trade. Only individual traders do. If the trades into which these people voluntarily enter entice them by the prospect of mutual gain, it simply cannot be the case that the sum total of their transactions, a trade deficit or surplus, amounts to a bad deal. When Trump claims that trade deficits hurt the United States, he ignores the U.S. consumers and businesses that engage in those trades, imports, for mutual gain. Their interests apparently don't matter. But if Americans want to buy toasters or washing machines or steel from China, for instance, why should the government try to stop them? The government only does so, as Adam Smith said, because of the interested sophistry of merchants and manufacturers who have confounded the common sense of mankind. The merchants and manufacturers in question usually are the large domestic businesses and special interests, lobbyists and unions, who want to dominate the U.S. market and keep competition out. They lobby Congress and the White House to protect them from foreign competitors. When they succeed, the government places tariffs and other prohibitions on selected imports, which are nothing more than taxes that are passed on to consumers. Thus, Americans pay higher prices for goods to help keep selected U.S. businesses protected from the marketplace. The federal government gets the tax revenue. Notice this is exactly what I claimed before. All tariffs do is pass on the fucking extra cost onto the consumer, which results in all of the people who actually matter getting fucked. For instance, a 2024 report by the Cato Institute separating tariff facts from tariff fictions found that the 2018 tariffs on imported foreign goods cost U.S. consumers up to over $4 billion per month in additional taxes and deadweight loss or lost income. As an example, the Trump administration's tariffs on washing machines resulted in an aggregate increase in consumer costs of more than $1.5 billion, noted the report. Protectionists rarely talk about things like that, nor do they like to discuss America's trade balance when you include not just goods and services, but also investment income and unilateral transfers, such as remittances and foreign aid. As Dan Griswold wrote, the total outflow of dollars each year from the United States to the rest of the world is matched by an equal inflow of dollars from the rest of the world to the United States. Dollars spent on imported goods and services return to the United States, if not to buy U.S. goods and services, then to buy U.S. assets in the form of an inward flow of investment. In other words, if you measure the value of U.S. exported goods and services versus imported goods and services, there may be a deficit. But if you include all the dollars that flow into and out of the United States each year, the accounts are always balanced, said Griswold. Contrary to protectionist claims, there is nothing to, quote, rebalance. This net inflow of investment funds to America balances out the trade deficit, said Professor Donald J. Boudreaux, co-director of the Program on the American Economy and Globalization of the Mercatus Center. Because investing is every bit as much as economic activity as is buying, importing, and selling, exporting, when investing is included in the economic picture, as it should be, the existence of a trade deficit signals neither decline nor imbalance. Moreover, that investment in the U.S. stimulates the economy in myriad ways and creates jobs. When the U.S. consistently attracts a disproportionately large share of investment funds from around the world, it can hardly be said to be on the decline or unbalanced, said Boudreaux. Nonetheless, the protectionists ignore this reality. If you believe in private property and the individual should be allowed to buy and sell whatever they want at local shops, among states, online, and from foreign businesses, Honda Cars, anyone, then you know that all trade is good. It benefits the parties involved and brings people closer together. You also realize that complaints about trade deficits, imbalances, and protection from foreign goods are nothing more than the sophistry of merchants and manufacturers and politicians who seek to confound common sense, whose interest is opposite to that of the great body of the people, the American consumers. Ignore the charlatans, pursue your happiness. So that's sort of a very technical and long-winded explanation of specifically what I've already told you. Now, when I say it, you go, it's some dude that doesn't know what he's talking about. That a lot of times people point to my personal financial situation, which is absolutely irrelevant to my body of knowledge on the economy. So I decided to cut that out completely. Now, you can claim that this person doesn't know what they're talking about, but then you're just a fool trying to argue with an expert. So this is what all decent economists have been saying for years, even before Trump existed on the fucking political stage. So if you disagree with this, don't do this retarded, you're stupid, you're wrong, and then end it there. Explain specifically what is mistaken about this entire article. If you can't do that, then you have no real point. You're just emotional. You're offended that, like, I'm fucking attacking your cult, basically. So this shows beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump should be absolutely nowhere near trying to do anything for the U.S. economy because he's an absolute fucking moron. Again, numerous people said, yes, he's not a politician. He knows nothing about politics, but he is a great businessman. No, he's not. He bankrupted 4 fucking times. Now, I'll point this out. Your average individual, your average person, does not have the kind of money that Donald Trump had to fall back on. When you, like me, if I decide to invest in like a business, most of the time for your average person, you get one shot. If you fuck it up, you just fucking lost all of that investment and you're probably not going to get another chance. Donald Trump failed 4 fucking times, and then I believe he realized that his best bet would be not to rely on his pea brain, but to invest in other people who were smarter than him. So yeah, he's a fucking idiot. And here's more proof of it. Thank you for your time.